Part 1 Segment 1, The Bridge and the Face. Rain had been falling for 3 days without pause. A cold, colorless kind of rain that flattened the fields and made the air taste of rust. The Marchlands had always been a place where weather lingered. Storms came down from the Cheviots and stalled above the Tweed as if unsure which country to drown first. DS Ethan, Teddy, Armstrong sat behind the wheel of the patrol Land Rover, the wipers rasping back and forth like a slow saw. He hadn't slept in 30 hours. His reflection in the window looked older than 33, the faint tremor in his jaw, the small muscle below the left eye that hadn't stopped twitching since London. Static spat from the radio. Then a voice, thin beneath the rain. Control to 224, report of a body on Chain Bridge. Caller says it's hanging. The words dropped into the cab like stones. Ethan flicked on the blue lights and turned north, tires slicing through black puddles. Chain Bridge crossed the Tweed like a piece of forgotten ironwork, its riveted spine trembling whenever the wind blew. Built in 1820, closed in 1967, it still hung there, a monument to everything the valley refused to let go of. By the time Ethan reached it, the sky had collapsed into grey soup. Police tape sagged between posts, snapping in the wind. PC Morvan Douglas stood beside the bridge gate, her yellow jacket streaked with mud. She was young, eyes the blue of wet slate, her accent pure borders. "Christ, Teddy," she muttered. "You'll want to see this for yourself." Ethan followed her onto the bridge. The structure swayed under their boots. The river below was swollen, a black vein twisting through mist. Halfway across, the beam of a floodlight found the shape. Connor Rayleigh hung from the suspension cable, arms limp, boots brushing the top of the handrail. Rainwater ran down what was left of his face. The skin from his forehead to his jaw had been cut clean and folded inward, stuffed into his open mouth like cloth. The rest of the head was bone, gleaming white under the light. On his bare chest, the words had been carved by hand. 87 for 28, Tweed remembers. Ethan stopped 5 paces back. The river rode below, carrying bits of branch and something that looked like torn fabric. Who found him? A fisherman. Said he thought it was a scarecrow till it smiled. Morvan's voice cracked on the last word. She turned away, covering her mouth. Ethan moved closer. There was something wrong about the posture, the arms slightly spread, as though Connor had chosen it. The rope was looped not around the neck but under the chin, pulling his head upward, like a grotesque salute. The rain thickened. Somewhere upstream, thunder rumbled. They cut the body down at dawn. The coroner's van took what was left toward Berwick, wheels spraying mud. Ethan and Morvan stood in the skeletal light, both soaked through. He was one of the archaeologists, Morvan said. Working the riverbed by the old barrage. The Great Tweed Barrage, Ethan murmured. That's been shut since 74. Aye. 50 years come March. Ethan stared at the river. Somewhere below the current lay the broken concrete heart of the old dam. When he'd been a child, his grandfather had called it the grave underwater. He didn't tell Morvan that his own family name was etched somewhere on the blueprints. Or that the man who signed off the test flood, the night 87 workers drowned, was his grandfather, Harold Armstrong, chief engineer. At the station, the rain turned to sleet. Files piled on Ethan's desk like a miniature landslide. He watched the security footage from the road camera that faced Chain Bridge. At 2:11, Connor Rayleigh's van stopped on the empty bridge. He stepped out, shirtless in the freezing rain. For 42 seconds, he faced the camera and smiled. Then, methodically, he raised a folding knife and began to cut away his own face. There was no sign of another person, no vehicle, no interference. The tape ended when he looped the rope around his chin and stepped forward into darkness. Ethan muted the screen, but the silence had weight. He replayed the clip twice. On the third viewing, as the image flickered from digital noise, he caught something, a shimmer on the edge of the frame. A pale reflection on the water below, shaped almost like another face staring up from the current. By evening, the press were calling it the chain bridge hanging. Reporters from Newcastle and even Edinburgh filled the one pub still open, buying locals drinks in exchange for superstition. Hamish Grieve Kerr sat alone by the fireplace, his skin the color of wet rope. He'd been a foreman at the barrage in '74, one of the few to survive. When Ethan approached, Kerr didn't look up. He was polishing a tarnished pocket watch with a bit of rag. "Saw the body then, did ye?" the old man said, voice low as gravel. "I did." "Then ye've seen the first one. There'll be more. Always starts with a bridge." Ethan frowned. "Always?" Kerr glanced up, one eye clouded white, the other sharp as flint. "The Tweed keeps count, lad. We gave her 87 souls and buried 28. The river knows the difference. Every 50 years, she calls the names again. You think this was, what, revenge? Not revenge. Reckoning. She wants her faces back." Kerr rose, pocket watch ticking like a heartbeat. "When the river starts singing, don't listen. That's how they find ye." The old man left without finishing his pint. Night fell heavy. Ethan drove home through fog that moved like breath. The cottages along the A697 were dark, curtains drawn tight. In the headlights, rain turned to glittering threads. He lived in a converted mill house by the water, stone walls slick with moss. Inside, the radiators gurgled but gave no heat. He poured a whiskey, sat by the window, and tried not to look at the river. A low hum threaded through the wind, a note too deep to be thunder. He realized it was coming from the old dam site downstream. He turned off the lights. Through the mist, faint as candle flame, he could see movement on the far bank, a figure, stooped, head tilted as though listening. He blinked, and it was gone. The hum faded, replaced by the ordinary rush of water. But when he leaned closer to the glass, he heard it again, fainter, almost tender now, like someone humming a lullaby under their breath. A child's voice, or perhaps many voices layered together, whispering just beneath the current. 87 for 28. Tweed remembers. The whiskey trembled in his hand. Outside, the river kept moving east, carrying the sound with it toward the sea, as if reminding him that nothing truly drowns in the Marchlands. Not water. Not guilt. Not the dead. Segment 2, the river opens its mouth. Morning came raw and colorless, the kind of morning that bleeds into the night before it. Ethan Armstrong hadn't slept. His dreams, if he'd had any, had drowned somewhere between the hum of the radiator and the whisper of the Tweed outside. When he finally opened the door, the mist was thick enough to taste. The air smelled of iron and moss and something else, old stone turned inside out. At the station, Morven Douglas sat in front of a corkboard crowded with photographs, corner Rayleigh's corpse from every conceivable angle. She looked pale, her hair damp from the drizzle. "You look like hell," she said. "I've been there," Ethan replied. She gestured at the board. "You see the carving again? 87 for 28. What's that supposed to mean?" Ethan hesitated. "It's a number from the barrage. The official record says 28 workers died in the '74 flood. But the crews were mostly itinerant, travelers, Scots laborers, a few Irish. Names weren't all on the books. The rumors always been there were 87. Morven's brow furrowed. 87 unaccounted for." He nodded. "My grandfather's signature was on the project file. They sealed the inquest within a week. And you think the bastard ghosts are coming back for an apology? I think someone wants us to remember what we were told to forget." Before Morven could answer, the phone on her desk rang. She picked it up, then froze. "What? Say that again." "Found where?" She looked at Ethan, her face gone paper white. "It's Abigail Shaw. They've pulled her from the river. They reached the site within half an hour. The Tweed ran swollen and brown, dragging whole trees in its current. On the embankment stood a small crowd of paramedics and divers. Ethan followed the coroner's assistant to where the body lay under a tarp. When they lifted it, he felt the cold through his bones. Dr. Abigail Shaw's face was not her own. The skin on her skull had been peeled and replaced with someone else's. It took Ethan only a heartbeat to recognize it: the sharp cheekbones, the narrow jaw, the faint stubble on the upper lip. Connor Riley's. But the flesh was already sloughing off, seams of waxy tissue running like melted candle. Beneath, the pale skull shone through, pink and wet. Morven gagged, stumbling back toward the water. Ethan didn't move. The river behind them hissed like laughter. How long was she in the water? 6 hours, maybe less, the coroner said. Her face, if that's what it is, was sewn on after death. But whatever adhesive was used, it's breaking down. Ethan crouched beside the body. There were deep parallel gouges across her throat, not defensive wounds, but something else. Like fingers pressing too hard. On the back of her neck, faint but deliberate, another carving. Tweed remembers. They took the body back to Bewick Mortuary, the van's vipers squealing through sleet. Morven sat silent in the passenger seat, hands shaking. She was part of the same dig, Ethan said. She and Connor both. Then the others could be next. Aye. Rory Black, Isla Fraser, Professor Hume. She looked at him. What's your plan? Ethan lit a cigarette, though he'd quit 2 years ago. Talk to the last man who still listens to the river. Hamish Kerr lived in a cottage that looked older than language itself, walls black with soot, windows no bigger than gun slits. The rain turned the yard to swamp. When Ethan and Morven stepped inside, the air smelled of peat smoke and boiled meat. A fire burned low in the hearth, throwing long shadows that bent like reeds. Kerr sat in an armchair, a wool blanket across his knees. His eyes reflected the firelight, sharp and small. Another one, he asked. Aye, Ethan said. This time the face wasn't hers. Kerr nodded slowly, as though he'd expected it. The Tweed rates don't wear their own anymore. Been too long since they had faces to begin with. You said last night it starts with a bridge. A bridge to cross the living and the drowned. Once the bridge takes a face, the river takes another. Morven folded her arms. And what are they after? Wholeness, Kerr said simply. They want back what the flood took from them. Flesh. Recognition. Names. But the river doesn't give names. Only faces. Ethan stared at the old man. You expect me to believe 87 waterlogged ghosts are skinning people? Kerr grinned, showing small brown teeth. Ye don't have to believe it, lad. Just stay out of the water. The fire popped. Ethan looked around the cottage, old photographs, oil lamps, the steady tick of a clock that had no hands. On the mantelpiece sat a small model of the dam, crudely carved from driftwood. You were there the night it broke, Ethan said. Aye. Kerr's eyes went distant. We just poured the last slab. Rain came sudden, like a curtain. We thought it was just a test surge. Then the whole right wall gave in. Concrete turned to soup. Men screamed, lights went under. And then the singing started. Morven frowned. Singing? A low hum, like a hymn under the water. You could feel it in your teeth. Men tried to swim and were dragged down. When the sun came up, only 28 of us were left breathing. He leaned forward. But I counted 87 faces float past me before the river went quiet. Ethan felt his stomach turn. And what happened to them? The army came. Concrete sealed over the wreck. They said the rest were missing. But you can't be missing in the Tweed, lad. You are just borrowed. The wind howled outside, rattling the shutters. Kerr smiled faintly. They'll take 87 new ones before they sleep again. Unless someone gives them a name to rest under. What name? Ethan asked. The one that signed the paper. The room fell still. The only sound was the rain crawling down the chimney. Ethan said nothing. By the time they left the cottage, night was rising out of the river. The rain had thinned to mist, the world muted to black and silver. Morven drove. The tires hissed through puddles that glowed faintly under the headlights. "What did he mean, the one who signed the paper?" she asked. "My grandfather," Ethan said. "He approved the flood test. He knew the structural faults. They said he had a stroke a week later." Jesus. If the river wants his blood, it's 50 years too late. Morven shot him a look. What if it wants his bloodline instead? Before Ethan could answer, the radio crackled violently. "Unit 24, urgent. Possible fatality, old quarry site. Repeat, possible fatality." Morven turned the wheel, gravel spraying from under the tires. The quarry sat half a mile from the ruined dam, an abandoned scar cut into the hillside. The rain had filled its basin with water black as oil. Old machinery rusted at the edge, half swallowed by weeds. Floodlights stuttered against the dark. One of the dig team's vans sat with the door open, music still playing from the radio, a folk ballad, warped by static. The first thing Ethan saw was the conveyor. It ran from the ground into the mouth of an old crusher, still powered somehow. And on that belt, turning slowly with the motion, was a head. No face. No lips. The eyes still wet, still blinking. Rory black. Morven screamed, stumbled backward. Ethan shut off the generator, and silence hit like a hammer. The only sound left was the whisper of the Tweed in the distance, steady and ancient. In the wet mud near the machine, someone, or something, had written with a finger. 87 for 28. Below it, a smear of half-dried blood formed another line. The river opens its mouth. Segment 3, whispers beneath the dam. The Marchlands were shrouded in mist by morning. The kind that blurred boundaries, between river and sky, between England and Scotland, between the living and what might not be. The rain had stopped, but the air still dripped. It clung to the stone like sweat. DS Ethan Armstrong parked the Land Rover on the gravel verge beside the Coldstream barrage, or what remained of it. The spillway had long since collapsed, leaving a concrete carcass jutting from the water like ribs. Moss and ivy had claimed most of the walls. Below, the Tweed murmured in a low, ceaseless voice. Morven Douglas was already there, her hood pulled tight, a torch strapped to her shoulder. "Morning," she said, voice brittle with cold. "Control wants photos. And Care's been calling the station since dawn, says he's found something." Ethan nodded, eyes fixed on the river. "We'll see to him after this. Let's take a look first." They crossed what was left of the access platform, steel grates slick with moss, bolted above a 20-foot drop. The air smelled of metal, riverweed, and something older, like rotting limestone. Morven shone her light down into the hollow beneath the dam. The beam slid across graffiti carved into the concrete decades ago. "Hadn't died for nothing, the river eats its own." Letters half hidden by lichen. "Locals say it's haunted," Morven muttered. "Kids dare each other to come down here at night." "Locals say a lot of things," Ethan replied, but his voice lacked conviction. They descended the maintenance ladder into the dark. The torchlight trembled over slick walls. Water dripped somewhere in the distance, a slow, rhythmic tapping like a clock in another room. At the bottom was a tunnel, old, half-flooded, lined with rusted pipes. The smell was stronger here, metallic and faintly sweet. Ethan's boot hit something soft. When he shone his light down, it wasn't debris. It was a mask, rubber, melted into the shape of a human face. The nose and mouth had fused into one smooth cavity. Morven crouched beside it. "Christ! Is that one of the divers' masks?" "Maybe," Ethan said. "But it looks burned." The walls seemed to close around them. The deeper they walked, the heavier the air became, thick, almost warm, like breathing through damp cloth. They came to an iron door marked Generator Hall 3. It hung slightly open. Inside was a cathedral of concrete. Rusted beams crisscrossed overhead. The floor was flooded ankle-deep, the surface rippling with the pulse of the river beyond. At the far end stood a single mirror, nearly 6 feet tall, framed in corroded brass. Its glass shimmered like a puddle of mercury. Morwen whispered, "What the hell is that doing here?" Ethan didn't answer. His reflection wavered in the glass, but not hers. Only one figure stood there, Ethan, and behind him, something faceless. He blinked. The shape was gone. Only the wet shine of his own tired eyes remained. "Let's get out of here," Morwen said quietly. "Something's wrong with the air." Ethan agreed, but before they could turn back, a sound rose from the tunnel behind them. Not footsteps. Not water. Breathing. Slow, collective, as if 50 lungs exhaled at once. Morwen froze. "Teddy!" Ethan raised his torch. The beam hit the far wall, then moved, and the wall moved with it. A sheet of water was crawling upward against gravity, shimmering like silk. Shapes formed within it, hands pressing from the inside, stretching the surface, fingers clawing at the air. Each hand was pale, leached of color, as though sculpted from chalk. And beneath the water, 100 black holes opened where eyes should have been. Morwen stumbled back, splashing through the shallows. "Jesus Christ!" The thing pulsed, and the mirror across the room clouded with frost. Ethan felt the temperature drop in an instant. His breath came out white. From somewhere within the moving wall, a voice spoke, dozens of voices layered into one, each echoing at a different depth. 87 for 28. Tweed remembers. The floodlight flickered. The water collapsed into itself with a noise like a sigh. Then silence. Only the river again, trickling through cracks. They didn't speak until they reached the surface. Morwen sat on the hood of the Land Rover, hands trembling as she lit a cigarette. "You saw it, didn't you?" she whispered. "I saw something." "That wasn't water." "No," Ethan said. "It wasn't." He looked down at his hands. They were still wet, but not from the river. The droplets on his skin were grey, like diluted cement. From across the valley, thunder cracked again. But there were no clouds. That afternoon, Ethan found Hamishkare waiting outside the police station, wrapped in a black coat, a dog at his feet. The old man didn't bother with greetings. "Ye went to the dam," he said. "I told ye not to. I needed answers. And now ye've woken them." Care's single good eye glimmered. "You remember the night it broke? The ones that died weren't buried proper. The government took what was left and poured concrete over them, right there in the spillway. Mixed them into the wall like they were part of the foundation." "That's just a rumor," Ethan said. "No rumor. I was there. I watched them shovel men into wet stone." Care reached into his coat and pulled out a thin folder, edges yellowed with time. He handed it over. Inside were blueprints, the original schematics for the Coldstream barrage. At the bottom corner, stamped in fading ink, was a signature. Harold J. Armstrong, Chief Engineer. Ethan stared at the name. "Your blood signed their tomb," Care said. "That's why they're looking for ye first." "What do they want?" "Faces," Care whispered. "To climb out of the river, they need skin to remember what they were. But it never lasts. The Tweed strips them clean again." He leaned closer. "Ye'll hear them soon, Teddy. In the pipes, in your drains, in the rain on the roof. When the 50 years close, the Marchlands will pay its due. And the first face they'll take will be yours." That night, Ethan dreamed of water. He stood in the dam's hollow, the mirror before him, his reflection rippling like oil. When he reached out, the glass was liquid. From beneath the surface, another hand met his own, ice cold, slick, identical. He tried to pull away, but the reflection gripped harder. Skin tore. Blood drifted upward, curling through the water like smoke. Then he saw them behind the reflection, scores of figures, faceless and trembling, each with a patchwork of decaying skin stitched across their heads. They reached for him with hands that dripped concrete dust. The river whispered from all sides. 87 for 28. Tweed remembers. He woke choking on water that wasn't there. His bedsheets were soaked. The house smelled of the river. When he staggered to the bathroom, the mirror above the sink was fogged from within, though the air was freezing. He wiped it with his hand. For a second, only a second, his reflection smiled back, even though he hadn't. And just as quickly, the glass cracked from corner to corner, a thin line that wept a single bead of grey water. Part 2 Segment 1, The River's Second Mouth. The morning after the mirror dream came in shades of iron. The rain had turned to a low mist that lay across the marchlands like breath upon a mirror. Ethan Armstrong sat at the kitchen table of his stone cottage, hands wrapped around a mug of coffee that had gone cold an hour ago. The radio muttered static. Every so often, he thought he could hear the static pulse, like a voice caught between channels. He hadn't slept again. Each time he'd closed his eyes, he'd heard the whisper of water beneath the floorboards, a slow seep, as if the Tweed were searching for a way inside. His phone vibrated across the table. "Armstrong," he answered. "Teddy, it's Morwen," came the voice, thin and brittle. "You'd better come down to the dam." They found another one. He didn't ask who. He already knew. The Tweed barrage site was cordoned off with police tape that flapped in the wind like dying birds. Forensics vans lined the gravel path, their lights cast a pale blue shimmer over the flooded construction pits. The smell of wet concrete and old oil hung thick. Morwen met him by the edge of the spillway, her face drawn and pale. "Divers pulled her up an hour ago," she said. "Dr. Abigail Shaw. Found near the North Sluice Gate." Ethan followed her gaze. A stretcher lay beneath a tarpaulin, surrounded by figures in white suits. The rain hissed as it touched the blue plastic. He approached slowly, his boots sinking into the mud. When the cover lifted, the river's work was written there, not gore, but ruin, as if the water had sculpted her face into something that didn't belong to her anymore. There was no blood. Just the grey pallor of a life rinsed out too quickly. A detective from forensics murmured something about skin slippage, water damage, post-mortem erosion. The words felt clinical, hollow, tools for men who didn't believe in hauntings. Ethan crouched beside the body. On the inner side of the woman's wrist, carved deep but precise, were the numbers. 287. An hour later, another call came through the radio. "Control to all units, possible 10 to 54, Coldstream Works. Body reported in the quarry pit. Witness claims the machinery was running." Morwen looked at Ethan. Neither spoke. They just drove. The Coldstream Works had been derelict for 40 years, a labyrinth of rusted conveyors and concrete silos. Rain trickled through holes in the roof, tapping against metal like fingers on glass. As they entered, the echo of their footsteps was swallowed by the machinery's lingering hum, a vibration that seemed to come from the earth itself. They found Rory Black in what had once been the Stonecrusher Hall. The floodlights illuminated a nightmare of industry, twisted steel, chains still swinging, gears that turned though no one had touched the controls. The generator's switch had been ripped open. Sparks spat in rhythm with the rain. The body lay beneath the conveyor belt, half submerged in water blackened with grease. Ethan stared at it for a long time without moving. Something about the stillness, the unnatural pose, the blankness where expression should be, made it feel less like death and more like erasure. Morwen whispered, he worked sound equipment. Microphones, sonar. Said he could hear things through the water, voices. I thought he was joking. Ethan turned to her. Did he record anything? She swallowed. Laptops gone. The van too. By noon, the press had arrived. Headlines spread across the valley faster than the fog. River killer strikes again. The faceless plague of the Tweed. borderlands haunted by Ghost Dam. At the local inn, villagers gathered around the TV, whispering about how the dead were being claimed in numerical order. Farmers spoke of lights moving under the river at night, as if something enormous were crawling along the bottom. No one crossed the bridges alone anymore. Ethan stood outside the barracks smoking his first cigarette in years. The smoke didn't warm him. Across the yard, a sleek black car pulled in, tinted windows, official plates. The door opened, and the Victoria Sinclair stepped out, mid-30s, trench coat sharp enough to cut through fog, ice cold as Edinburgh marble. Detective Sergeant Armstrong? That's me. The Sinclair, Serious Crime Directorate. I'll be taking lead from here. Her accent was precise, polished. A woman from the city sent to clean up country superstition. 2 bodies in less than 6 hours, she said, glancing at the case file. Cause of death, undetermined. Local hysteria rising. Press intrusion at maximum. I assume you are familiar with the rumors? If you mean the river ghosts, yes. She gave him a look of half-pity. Let's keep this terrestrial, shall we? You are a policeman, not a folklorist. Ethan didn't answer. Behind her, the river shimmered through the trees, pale and restless. That night, a storm came down from the north. The Tweed rose 3 feet in an hour. Wind howled through the valley, carrying with it a low resonance that made windows tremble in their frames. In the darkness, the river didn't look like water, it looked like a throat, opening. Ethan drove the Land Rover to the old chain bridge, headlights slicing through mist. The rain glittered like dust in the beams. The bridge swayed again, and for a moment he thought he saw figures walking across it, dozens of them, silhouettes in the rain. Then lightning struck somewhere upstream, and the bridge was empty. He parked at the midpoint, engine idling, and rolled down the window. The smell of the Tweed rose like iron and salt. Beneath the roar of the current, he heard it again, that faint hum, that layered voice speaking through water and wind. 87 for 28. The river takes its faces. He shut his eyes, but the words kept threading through his skull, a memory that wasn't his. When he returned to his cottage near midnight, the power was out. He lit a candle and sat by the window, staring at the river's reflection. It no longer looked like a surface. It looked like depth, endless, waiting. His phone buzzed again. Unknown number. He hesitated, then answered. Ethan Armstrong? Who is this? A pause. Then a voice, female, distorted, crackling like water over stones. You owe the river his name. The line went dead. He stared at the screen until it dimmed, the reflection of his face fractured across the black glass. From outside came a soft knocking. 3 taps, deliberate, measured. Not at the door, but from under the floorboards. Ethan stood, candle flickering in his hand. The knocks came again, closer this time. Beneath them, faint but rising, a chorus of whispers, all speaking the same rhythm. 2 for 3, 3 for 4, 87 for 28. The candle guttered. He dropped it. When the light went out, the whisper turned into breath. He could feel it on his face, cold, wet, and human. Then, silence. Only the sound of the Tweed outside, rolling endlessly eastward, toward the sea that never forgot. Segment 2, The River Remembers Its Dead. Morning broke not in light, but in a trembling pallor, a dawn that looked like a bruise spreading across the sky. The river Tweed had risen overnight, spilling over its banks, devouring the meadows like a slow creature reclaiming what was once its flesh. DS Ethan Armstrong drove along the flooded road to Coldstream village, the Land Rover growling through knee-high water. He hadn't slept again. His eyes were red, not from tears, but from the ache of something unseen pressing at the back of his skull, a weight that hummed in rhythm with the river. By the time he reached the village square, the sirens were already wailing. Police tape snapped in the wind, and the scent of copper cut through the rain. Scene 1, the third face. The statue in the center of the square, St. Cuthbert's Cross, carved from black basalt, had been defaced in the night. Across the stone chest, written in dripping scarlet, were the words, 387, the river does not forget. And at the foot of the statue lay a shape, curled and naked, glistening with rain. When the sheet was pulled back, the sight drew a silence so sharp it seemed to cut sound itself. It was Dr. Abigail Shaw, again. Or at least her face. The body beneath, small and slight, belonged to Connor Rayleigh, the diver found days before. His face, or what had once been his face, had been replaced with Abigail's. But the seams were wrong, the fit unnatural, the features sagging as though melting. The skin had been stitched crudely along the jawline with wire, each twist biting through flesh. The rain washed over it, and the water began to eat the face away again, slowly, hungrily. Morven Douglas gagged behind her gloved hand. Ethan just stared. He didn't blink. He couldn't. Whoever did this, he said quietly, they're not human anymore. You think it's one killer, she whispered. No, I think it's the river. Seen to the old keeper of flames. By noon, Hamish Care was waiting for him. The old man stood outside his weather-beaten cottage near the ruins of Haddon Church, smoke from the hearth curling through the mist like prayer. His eyes were grey, cataract-clouded, but sharp beneath it, the kind of sharp that had seen death and learned its language. Ethan stepped from the car, boots crunching on gravel. You shouldn't be here, lad, Hamish said before he was even greeted. Not when the river's hungry. You know something, Hamish? Tell me. The old man stared at him for a long moment. Then, with a sigh like creaking wood, he turned and opened the door. Inside, the cottage smelled of peat, rust, and wax. Hundreds of candles burned on every surface, shelves, mantel, even the windowsills, all carved with numbers. Each one different. 87. They were the men who built the dam, Hamish said, his voice trembling not from age but memory. And the ones who drowned when it broke. Government said 28 died. The rest, he looked at Ethan. They said they vanished. He reached for a faded map pinned to the wall, the Great Tweed Barrage, 1974. Black ink marks circled 3 drowned villages, Ladykirk, Haddon, Coldstream Mill. Red crosses dotted the river like open wounds. The night the dam burst, Hamish continued, I saw it with my own eyes. The water didn't just take them, it fed on them. Swallowed their faces first. Every one of them came up white as lime, like masks carved from river stone. Ethan frowned. Ghost stories won't hold up in court. Hamish smiled, showing teeth too white for his age. Courts got no reach where the Tweed runs, lad. This river's older than England, older than Scotland. It remembers every war, every blood debt, every name it ever swallowed. He lifted a candle, number 14, and held it close to Ethan's face. You are his blood, aren't you? The one who signed the order that killed them. Ethan froze. The air seemed to thicken. Your grandfather, Sir Douglas Armstrong. Chief engineer. He knew the dam would crack. The Scots begged him to stop the test. He signed anyway, said progress required sacrifice. The candle flame bent, as if reaching toward Ethan's breath. Now the river's come to collect. Seen 3 other blood ultimatum. That night, a council meeting was held in the Coldstream Town Hall, an ancient structure that once served as a border watchtower. The rain beat against its slate roof like fists. Half the village came, farmers, traders, fishermen, priests. Some carried candles. Others carried pitchforks. On the projector screen, the Vicky Sinclair displayed crime scene photos, blurred faces, muddy footprints, the carved numerals. We are dealing with a coordinated killer, she said, her voice tight. Perhaps a cult. These symbols, 87 for 28, are revenge iconography. We'll find them. But we need order. The room murmured. Then Hamish Care stood from the back, his voice cracking like dry timber. Order? You talk of order to a river that eats the dead? You'll not find them, lass. They're not on land anymore. Sinclair scoffed. And who are they supposed to be, Mr. Care? The Tweed wraiths, Hamish said. 87 of them. Men without faces. They've waited 50 years for this night. 7 days they'll take. 7 days to balance the scales. He pointed a trembling finger toward Ethan. Unless one of Armstrong's blood stands and admits the truth, that 87 died, not 28, they'll rise from the bed of the river and walk among us. They'll take faces till they've got their own back. The crowd began to shift, restless murmurs turning to frightened whispers. Sinclair slammed her fist on the table. That's enough superstition. This isn't the 17th century. But her voice was already lost under the sound outside, a deep, rolling groan, like thunder coming from beneath the earth. Windows rattled. Lights flickered. A child screamed, "It's the river!" And then someone burst through the doors, a young constable, drenched and pale. "Ma'am! You need to see this. It's Isla Fraser, the girl from the archaeology team. She's on live stream. Scene 4, the fourth face." They crowded around the projector. The image flickered into view, Isla Fraser, alone in a dark room, camera trembling as if held by unseen hands. Her face was lit by candlelight, eyes wide and glassy. "They said the water wants a face," she whispered. "Said it only needs mine for a little while." She raised a blade, ceremonial, old, its handle wrapped in riverweed. Someone in the hall shouted, "Turn it off." But no one moved. In a single motion, she pressed the blade to her cheek and drew downward. Once. Twice. Blood streamed over her chin, glinting like ink. Her breath hitched, but she was smiling the same slack, vacant grin Connor had worn on the bridge. 87 for 28, she murmured. The Tweed remembers. Then the feed cut out, replaced by the endless hiss of static that somehow sounded like the rush of the river. For a long time, no one spoke. Then, from outside, came the tolling of a single church bell, though every church in the Marchlands had been abandoned decades ago. Scene 5, the verdict of fear. By midnight, panic had spread through the valley. Roads were blocked by fallen trees, the storm made escape impossible. Rumors whispered that the dead were walking out of the river in twos, faceless silhouettes gliding across the meadows, dripping with black water. Cattle were found dead, eyes gone, faces peeled like fruit. Sinclair ordered every officer on night patrol. Find her. Find anything. But even she avoided the windows now. Ethan sat in his Land Rover by the riverbank, engine off, listening. Somewhere across the water, he heard it again, the sound of something dragging itself along the stones. Then, faint and high, a child's voice, singing through the storm. The river took them, the river fed. The river keeps the faces of the dead. He stepped out, flashlight cutting through the fog, but the beam caught only the rain, and the river rolling black as glass. Still, he knew, something was watching from the far bank. Something that was counting. Segment 3, The Night of Faces. The night came early to the Marchlands. By 5 o'clock the sun had given up, leaving only the rain and the hollow light of emergency vehicles reflecting off the river's skin. The Tweed was swollen, its surface the color of lead. It looked less like water now and more like something that watched back. Ethan Armstrong leaned on the hood of his Land Rover, the radio crackling with panic. Dispatchers spoke over one another, reports from every village along the river, missing persons, power failures, alarms triggered by motion on empty bridges. Control, this is Unit 12, we've got static. They're walking out of the water. Then nothing. He lifted his eyes toward the dam site. From here it was a black line across the valley, the floodlights of the investigation tents barely visible through the mist. The storm smelled metallic, as though the air itself were rusting. Morven Douglas arrived in a patrol car, headlights cutting through the drizzle. She looked pale, rain soaking her hair flat against her forehead. "You've seen it?" she asked. Heard it, he said. That's enough. They both turned toward the sound that had replaced the rain, a low, rhythmic chant carried on the wind from the direction of Coldstream Works. It wasn't words, exactly. It was counting. 68, 69. By the time they reached the dam, dozens of villagers had gathered, carrying torches and makeshift crosses. Someone had painted 87 for 28 on a sheet and hung it across the gate. It flapped in the wind like a warning banner. Hamishkare stood among them, wrapped in an oilskin coat, his white hair slick with rain. His eyes were wild with a conviction that seemed older than him. "They're not just dead," he shouted above the roar. "They were buried alive in water. The river remembers. It takes what it sowed." Ethan pushed through the crowd. "Hamish, listen to me." "You listen, boy." "The river wants its confession. Someone has to speak the 87 names aloud, or it'll keep taking faces till it's done." Morven whispered, "Ethan, look." Down by the sluice gates, something moved. Not a person, not quite. The water shimmered around it as if disturbed from below. Then another shape, and another, figures rising out of the mist, their outlines blurring between reflection and flesh. Their faces were blank in the floodlights, pale and slick as porcelain. Someone screamed. The crowd surged backward, trampling the police tape. Inside the control room, the CCTV monitors glitched in and out, each one showing static overlaid with fragments of faces, dozens of them, flickering like film melting in a projector. Dee Sinclair was on the radio, her voice tight with command she no longer believed in. "No one leaves the site. We secure this area, we." Her words cut off as every screen turned white. For a split second, the static formed a single image, a man in a diver's suit, faceplate cracked, his mouth open underwater in an endless scream. The monitors exploded into black. Sinclair dropped the radio. "Jesus Christ." Morven backed away from the screen. That was Connor. The diver. "No," Sinclair said, though her voice trembled. "It was interference. That's all." But the word interference no longer meant anything here. At 10:17 p.m., every phone in the valley lit up at once. Notifications, live streams, and messages flooded the networks. "Watch this, she's doing it again." Someone was broadcasting from the old courthouse, Isla Fraser's account. Morven opened her phone. The live feed was already at 20,000 viewers. Isla stood before a dark window, face lit by candlelight. Her eyes were vacant, her voice calm, as though reciting a prayer. "He said the river keeps what it's given," she murmured. But what if it was never fed enough? Behind her, faint and distorted, the reflection of water rippled across the glass. For a heartbeat, Ethan thought he saw hands pressing from the other side of the pane. Then the stream went black. By midnight, the Marchlands were without power. The wind turbines had shut down, the dam's backup generators failed. Only the torches remained, flickering like ghost lights across the embankment. The villagers formed a semicircle near the floodgate, their fear turned inward. Someone shouted that Ethan was cursed, that his bloodline had caused the drowning in 74. Another shouted that he should confess and end it. He looked at their faces, faces he'd known since childhood, and realized they weren't looking at him anymore. They were looking through him, as if his skin were already half gone. Hamish stepped forward, holding something in his hand, a crumpled map of the old valley before the flood. His finger traced a circle around the dam. "Right there," he said. "Under the old Coldstream mill. That's where they sealed them in when the wall broke. The water filled faster than they could run. 87 men. Their bones are still down there, pressed into the silt. You expect me to believe they're walking now?" Ethan said. "You don't have to believe it. You just have to hear them." And then Ethan did. A vibration through the soles of his boots, steady, rising. The sound of 1,000 bubbles breaking at once, like breath under pressure. The river was speaking. 87 for 28. The Tweed remembers. The crowd began to murmur the same words, as if the current had crawled into their throats. At 1 a.m., a siren went off upstream. The emergency floodgate had opened without authorization. Torrents of water burst through, roaring like thunder. The villagers scattered, but the current didn't come for them. It curved, unnaturally, toward the broken machinery of the old dam. Sinclair screamed into her radio for backup that would never come. "Shut it down. For God's sake, shut it down." Ethan ran toward the sluice lever, slipping on the slick metal walkway. The whole structure shuddered underfoot. From the corner of his eye, he saw shapes moving inside the water, arms, torsos, fragments of work clothes. Not bodies. Echoes. Morven grabbed his sleeve. "Teddy, look." He turned. Across the rising flood, near the base of the dam, something had surfaced. Dozens of white forms, kneeling in the shallows, heads bowed. The reflection of their faces shimmered, every one of them wearing a different expression, borrowed, unfinished. Then they lifted their heads in unison, and the water fell silent. Ethan felt the air thin around him. The pressure was like being underwater. "They're waiting for the 74th, Hamish whispered. "The one who carries the engineer's blood." "Me," Ethan said. Hamish nodded, rain tracing the lines of his face like tears. "The river knows its builders, lad. And it always collects its depths." The sirens wailed again, this time from far away, Berwick, maybe, or Kelso. The valley was screaming. People ran, slipped, fell into the black water. Ethan stood his ground, staring at the surface where the forms had been. They were gone now. Only ripples remained, spreading outward until they broke against his boots. In the sudden silence, he thought he heard someone humming. A lullaby, wordless but familiar. He realized it was coming from the concrete wall itself, the sound vibrating through the structure like a buried choir. The river was inside the dam. Hours later, when dawn crawled over the marchlands, the valley looked unchanged. The mist hung low, soft and harmless. But the road to Coldstream was lined with empty cars, their doors open, headlights still running. D. Sinclair's vehicle was among them. The driver's door hung ajar, engine still humming. The seat was empty, but her coat was folded neatly on the passenger side, and on the window, written in condensation, were the words 3 for 4. Ethan stood by the riverbank, exhausted beyond fear. Morven approached quietly, her voice hoarse. "Where are they, Teddy?" He stared into the grey water. "Not gone," he said. "Just beneath." The current swirled once, then stilled. The Tweed ran on toward the sea, as it always had, as if nothing had ever happened. But in its mirrored surface, for the briefest instant, Ethan saw his own reflection blink without him. Part 3. Segment 1, The Face That Watches Back. Dawn crawled over the marchlands like a pale wound reopening. The fog clung low, thick as sheep's wool, muting the ruins of the valley and drowning what was left of night's screams. The river Tweed, swollen with unseasonable rain, rolled with the rhythm of a slow heart. Each swell carried pieces of bark, a child's shoe, and, if one looked too long, something that might have been a hand or a mask. Ethan Armstrong woke to the smell of iron. It wasn't blood, but river water trapped in his jacket, metallic and old. He sat upright in the back seat of the Land Rover, the condensation on the windshield hallowing the silhouette of his face. The cracked mirror on the dash caught his reflection, split his eyes into two halves that didn't quite belong to the same man. For a moment, he didn't know where he was. Only the rhythmic drip of water from the roof anchor and the faint hum of the radio, still whispering the emergency broadcast from the night before, reminded him. Residents advised to remain indoors. Do not approach the dam site. Do not engage with individuals exhibiting facial trauma. The voice was female, calm, Scottish border lilt, probably pre-recorded. It looped every 2 minutes. Ethan reached for his flask, found it empty, and muttered, "Figures." His hand trembled. The cuts on his knuckles had reopened, thin ribbons of red against the grime. He looked outside. The village of Haddon lay below, what was left of it, its roofs collapsed under decades of moss. Smoke rose from only one chimney, Hamish Care's cottage. Ethan stepped out into the fog. The air pressed against him like damp cloth. The dream before dawn. He had dreamed of the dam again. But this time, it wasn't the collapse of 74. It was something quieter. He was standing in the middle of the riverbed, the water drawn away, the silt cracked like old skin. His grandfather stood at the top of the broken wall, young and smiling, calling his name. Behind him, the 87 workers were not drowned but waiting, faces unfinished, eyes the color of deep silt. One of them stepped forward, whispering through a mouth that was only half a mouth. "Do you know what your face looks like, from the other side?" Then came the sound of a single nail being hammered into wet wood. Slow. Certain. Ethan woke just before the final blow. The memory clung to him as he trudged toward Care's cottage. The door was ajar. Inside, the peat fire had burned low, smoke coiling around old photographs nailed to the beams, men with flat caps and shovels, women in wool skirts, the kind of faces carved by wind. Hamish Care sat at the table, facing the window. His reflection in the glass looked younger than his body, as if the river had stolen years from him. "You came?" Care said, voice brittle as dried heather. Ethan nodded. "It's the last day." "Aye," Care answered. "And the river's hungry again." He poured 2 cups of black tea, set one in front of Ethan. The steam curled upward, carrying the faint scent of rust. "They'll come for you, lad," Care said, staring into his cup. "Not because of what you've done, but because of what your name means." "I'm not him," Ethan whispered. "I'm not my grandfather." Care smiled without humor. "Every border keeps its ghosts, Armstrong. You can't outrun blood on a map." Outside, the first church bell tolled, a broken sound, the clapper hitting only one side of the bell. Voices in the water. They walked together down to the banks of the Tweed. The fog had thinned enough to reveal the skeleton of the old bridge. It looked like a ribcage emerging from the water. Care carried a lantern. The glass panes were smeared with something oily that dimmed the flame to a sickly umber. "Do you hear them?" he asked. Ethan listened. At first, only the rustle of reeds. Then, beneath it, a murmur, faint, harmonic, like dozens of people humming through closed mouths. "It's them," Care said. "Always at dawn. That's when the faces hold longest." Ethan felt his stomach twist. "You've seen them?" "Aye. Once. Long ago." Care knelt, dipped his hand into the river. The water clung to his skin longer than it should have, as if reluctant to let go. "When my brother drowned, I saw his face looking up at me from under the ice the next winter. Not fear. Not peace. Just waiting." Ethan turned away, the nausea building. He could feel the weight of the dam even from here, miles upstream, an invisible wall pressing against his chest. "They'll come to the wall tonight," Care said. "It's not a curse anymore. It's a trade." Ethan frowned. "A trade?" "The river never takes without giving something back. A face for a face. A name for a name. It's old law, older than kings." The letter from the government. Back in town, the police station was deserted except for PC Morvan Douglas. She sat at her desk, hair plastered to her temples, staring at a fax machine that clicked every 30 seconds. Ethan pushed through the door. "What now?" She held up a crumpled sheet. The letterhead bore the insignia of the Department of Energy and Industry, dated 2 days ago. Decommissioned site Coldstream Dam. Directive, no further entry authorized. Addendum, structural instability increasing due to abnormal hydraulic pressure. Site sealed pending controlled collapse. Note, water levels remain inconsistent. Recommend night watch discontinued. It's signed by D. Sinclair, Morvan said. But she's been missing since yesterday. Ethan took the paper. The ink had bled, the lower lines unreadable. She didn't write this, he murmured. Outside, a siren wailed, short and distant. Then another, closer. A third joined in, then abruptly stopped, as if cut off mid-breath. Morvan swallowed. People are leaving town. The bridge is jammed with cars. But some of them aren't leaving. They're walking toward the dam. Ethan's pulse quickened. How many? Hundreds. He looked at the clock, 4:13 p.m. 12 hours until the anniversary. The mirror test. He went into the washroom. The mirror was streaked with condensation, and for a heartbeat, he thought he saw another man's reflection, eyes hollow, mouth too wide. But when he wiped the glass, only his own face looked back. Pale. Fractured by fatigue. He remembered what the wraith had whispered in his dream. Do you know what your face looks like, from the other side? Ethan leaned closer. The fluorescent light flickered. Behind him, for a breath, a figure seemed to stand, tall, water-blurred, faceless. Then gone. His radio crackled. Morvan's voice. Teddy, you'd better come outside. Now. The procession. The fog had lifted enough to see them, hundreds of figures moving along the river road, torches in hand. Men, women, children, farmers, pensioners, faces blank with purpose. No shouts, no chants, only the steady rhythm of their boots on wet stone. At their front walked a girl of maybe 9, barefoot, hair plaited with rushes. She carried a candle in a jam jar. The flame did not flicker. Morvan whispered, they say she hasn't spoken since last night. Ethan's throat closed. He recognized the child. One of the evacuees from Kelso, daughter of a stonemason who would worked on the dam's restoration years ago. The crowd stopped at the station gate. The girl lifted her candle toward him. Her lips moved, though no sound came. Ethan stepped forward. What do you want? Her answer came not from her mouth, but from the river itself, a deep, resonant whisper rolling through the fog. The river keeps what was promised. The crowd began to move again, turning toward the dam. Morvan grabbed his arm. We can stop them, can't we? Ethan looked at the candlelight fading into mist. No, he said softly. We follow. As the last of the daylight bled out, the marchlands seemed to sink deeper into its own reflection. Every puddle mirrored the sky's bruised underside, every window flickered with the shapes of people who weren't quite there. By the time they reached the old service road, Ethan could see the dam rising ahead, black against the storm clouds, its cracked concrete glistening like wet bone. The wind carried a single phrase over the water, repeated by no one and everyone. The Tweed takes its faces. Ethan touched his cheek. For the first time, the skin felt cold, as if something beneath it were listening. Segment 2, the last light over Coldstream. The light over the marchlands flattens to silver. It is not sunset yet, but the day no longer feels alive. The sky is a low sheet of pewter, and the wind moving through the reed beds carries the quiet weight of something about to end. The river lies swollen and dull, its surface mottled like old glass. Every few minutes a gust ripples it into motion, throwing back the faint color of the hills. No birds call. The air smells of peat and rust, and the metallic tang of the dam's machinery seems to drift for miles even though the turbines have long since fallen silent. From the high road, the valley looks emptied. The cottages along the slope appear shuttered, but the smoke rising from a few chimneys moves uneasily, breaking apart before it reaches the sky. A few scattered figures can be seen near the collapsed section of the dam, workers, or pilgrims, or the merely curious, it's hard to tell. The camera glides down from this wide, cold panorama and finds Ethan Armstrong walking the verge of the A697. His uniform jacket is open. His eyes, red-stained from days without rest, squint against the dying light. The badge on his shoulder catches a single line of brightness and then goes dull again. Behind him, the road bends toward Coldstream Bridge, the one that still stands, its ironwork vibrating faintly as the wind changes. He has been walking since dawn. He says nothing. His breath is slow, deliberate, as though he's pacing it to the rhythm of the valley. Every few steps, he looks toward the river. Every few steps, the camera cuts back to the same grey current, flowing wider than it should. At the far edge of the town, the old care farm sits crooked on its foundations, its windows glazed with condensation. A makeshift barricade of wood and chicken wire blocks the path. Someone has written across it in red chalk, "Stay indoors until dark." The words run slightly, as if the letters themselves are sweating. Ethan steps over the barrier. The ground here feels softer. The camera catches the slight give of the soil under his boots, not mud exactly, more like ground that has been breathing too long underwater. He finds Hamishkare sitting by the empty cattle trough, wrapped in a wool coat older than either of them. The old man's eyes are wide open, staring not at Ethan but at the horizon beyond him. "You hear them yet?" Hamish asks, not moving. Ethan doesn't answer. The camera holds the shot, a slow zoom in on both faces, one hollow with age, one eroded by sleeplessness. "They're not ghosts, lad," Hamish continues softly. "They're the shape that water takes when memory gets heavy enough." A distant sound interrupts them, not a voice, not quite. Something like a choir, or whine through a hollow structure. The camera pans to the river again, where the reeds bow in one long, perfect motion, as though something unseen has just passed by. Cut to a narrow lane leading back toward town. A single car moves slowly through it, headlights cutting weak tunnels through the mist. Inside sits the Victoria Sinclair, her hands trembling around the steering wheel. The camera lingers on her reflection in the windshield, the light of her dashboard flickering across her face like underwater lightning. Her voiceover is barely audible, a fragment of a report never completed. No signs of external interference. Multiple witnesses insist on auditory phenomena. Residents exhibiting collective delusion consistent with. She breaks off as something in the road appears ahead, not a person, just a shape. A pile of clothing perhaps. She swerves. The car spins slightly, stops. The camera cuts to outside, the mist closes in. The sound of the river grows louder even though it is half a mile away. When Sinclair steps out, the world has gone colorless. There's nothing on the road. Only a flattened patch of gravel, wet as if recently pressed by hands. The frame widens, a panoramic shot of the landscape stretching back toward the dam. In the distance, a faint light glows against the broken wall, torches, maybe, or campfires. Dozens of them. Cut to Ethan and Hamish again. Night approaches invisibly, the horizon doesn't darken so much as drain. Hamish is talking about the flood of 74, the night the dam cracked open like an egg. His voice stays calm, almost tender. "They said the rain stopped at midnight," he says. "It didn't. It just fell upward. That's when they went down, not drowning, not breathing either. Just waiting for someone to remember their faces." The camera tilts upward. Above them, the clouds have separated into long, faint ribbons, each catching a different temperature of light: lead, umber, pearl, iron. A dog barks somewhere near the riverbank. Then silence again. The stillness after the bark feels heavier than sound. Ethan rises. "I have to go," he says. Hamish nods, not looking up. I reckon the river's already chosen where it wants you." Cut to the Coldstream High Street, abandoned. Doors bolted, windows taped. A single pub sign swings in the wind, the Drover's Rest, its chains screeching against the bracket. The camera tracks past the empty shopfronts, showing reflections of flickering lights that don't seem to have sources. Ethan walks down the center of the street. His footsteps echo with strange rhythm, like two sets overlapping slightly out of time. He stops at the police station. The flag outside it is stiff with frost. Inside, The building hums faintly, not electricity, something older. Files cover the desk in layers, the radio sputters fragments of voices from a different frequency. 87 names, unfinished ledger, the wall remembers. Ethan turns the radio off. The hum doesn't stop. He moves to the back window and looks out. The camera follows his gaze. Beyond the station yard, the land falls away toward the dam. The light there, dozens of torches, forms a rough, wavering line along the water's edge. The people of Marchlands have gathered. The scene holds still for a full 10 seconds. Then the faintest movement, something shifting in the waterline, like a trick of current or reflection. The camera cuts closer, it's only the surface of the Tweed, catching the last of the daylight. But the motion has rhythm, a rising, falling, almost like breathing. Cut back to Ethan's face. He doesn't blink. The sound design shifts, wind and water blend until it's unclear which is which. Somewhere in that sound, the beginning of a human note, low, half-suck. He whispers to himself, it's starting. The frame widens, pulling back through the window, through the air above the street, until the entire valley is visible. The sky is iron blue now, the last gold burning on the ridgeline like embers in a grate. The town below lies motionless, but the light along the dam grows brighter, steadier, like the pulse of something waiting underneath. The scene ends on a wide static shot of the Marchlands, half in shadow, half in the dying light. The Tweed lies between them like a sheet of tarnished metal, unbroken and impossibly still. Somewhere deep in that stillness, a single ripple forms, moving against the current, toward the shore. Segment 3, The Night of 87 Faces. Night settles without drama. No thunder, no wind, only the slow closing of color. The Marchlands lie under a thin veil of mist that smells of wet iron. Across the low hills, the lights of farmhouses blink once and vanish, as if someone has turned the land itself inward. From above, the valley looks like a black lung drawing its final breath. The river glows faintly, not from moonlight but from the torches lining its edge, hundreds of them, each wavering in its own rhythm. They stretch from the broken spillway of the dam down to the shallows at Coldstream, a procession without movement. A bell tolls somewhere far away. Not church metal but something hollow, struck by accident. Its sound rolls through the valley and fades. The people do not speak. Their silhouettes are small against the ruined wall, and when they shift, they seem to do so at the same time, as though pulled by a single thought. The camera drifts closer. At the center of the crowd stands a wooden scaffold built from scrap timber and old floodgates. It creaks, not from weight but from the night air tightening the nails. At its base sits a single lamp, its light trembling over the puddles like breath on glass. No faces are clear. The torches paint them in moving shapes, eyes that flash and disappear, hands that gesture once and fall still again. A child begins to cry, the sound dies instantly, as if absorbed by the damp. Down by the river, the surface breaks in slow ripples. The water moves differently now, not toward the sea but along the bank, following the line of flame. The crowd turns their heads in unison. No one speaks the word miracle, yet the thought moves through them like cold current. Cut to a wide shot from the opposite shore. The dam's shadow covers half the valley. Beyond it, mist rises in columns, pale and silent. The torches throw enough light to reveal the wall's face, pocked, eroded, still bearing the faint outlines of names once carved there and long washed away. A single figure steps forward. From this distance, he is only a darker shape against the grey. He raises a lantern and holds it up to the wall. The glass flickers, then steadies. Somewhere behind him, another light answers, then another. In seconds, 87 small flames are visible, climbing the face of the ruin in uneven lines, marking something invisible but precise. The sound design changes, water against stone, a distant hum of electric cables that have not carried power for decades. The crowd's breathing becomes audible, a low tide in human rhythm. From the ridge, the scene resembles a ceremony that has already happened countless times. The valley remembers how to do this, the people only repeat. The camera glides upward again. The torches below look like constellations submerged in silt. The mist thickens until each flame burns inside its own halo. When one goes out, another flares brighter, as though compensating. A whisper begins, words too soft to understand, more rhythm than language. It spreads from torch to torch. Some mouths move, others do not, yet the sound continues, neither chant nor prayer. It's the noise a river makes when it tries to speak. Cut to a panoramic sweep across the dam. The wall gleams wetly. For a moment, it looks smooth, almost polished, as if the water has withdrawn a skin to show what lies beneath. The faint glimmer of the lamp flames turns the surface into shifting faces, not formed, only suggested, like reflections glimpsed in shallow current. The crowd sees it too. They do not scream, they simply bow their heads. The wind rises slightly. The torches bend and straighten again. The whispering stops. A single voice calls out, low, steady, unrecognizable. Remember. The river answers with a pulse of light along its length, as though the word itself has weight. Then everything stills. Time unhooks. The valley seems to hold its breath for minutes, or hours, or longer. The torches die one by one. The final flame at the scaffold flickers until it is only smoke curling upward into the mist. Cut to morning. Grey daylight bleeds over the marchlands. The valley looks smaller, the river ordinary again, the dam a blunt silhouette against a washed-out sky. The people have gone.